Unthinkable. I think she busted that paradigm wide open. When I mentioned I grew up Pentecostal and I loved it. That's why I love your music, because I love the lively, just music that gets your happy cells dancing around. And it really worked for me until it kind of didn't, and then I went on and did other things. But by the time I found a Unity Church, probably like many of you, I was already thinking a lot of those thoughts and identified and really felt this resonance of coming home to a part of me. And that particular Sunday in that church, it was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm not originally from, it may shock you, but I'm not native Hawaiian. I used to work for a Swedish company, and people said, "Are you Sweden?" I was like, "Yeah, real southern Sweden." I'm from North Carolina. So it was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I found my first Unity Church. And they started the service, and they started by affirming, "There's one power and one presence in the universe and in my life, God the good. Now say it together." And I couldn't say it. That was still unthinkable for me, because you see, I very much believed in a God and a devil at that time. And I was afraid that the devil might get on me, or God might get on me if I said something that was like, So I just kind of sit there and went, wow. Because I was unthinkable. I couldn't say it at that point in time. But when I went home, it stuck with me, and what I could say was, there is one true power and one true presence in my life and in the universe, God the good. And as I began to sit with it and meditate it, it really was no longer unthinkable universe. The God began to teach me, and I really began to come to a different understanding, which I now strongly believe, that there is only one. There's one power, just like electricity. There it is, and it can be used in this direction or that direction. There's the one power, one presence. And so when we reach those things in our life that are unthinkable, the universe is again saying, there you are, and you have the opportunity to say, I am here to reveal the divine. The unexpected, the unthinkable. And then the next, what we're really being called into is the undeniable. You know those things inside of you that you know, that you know, that you know. That's your truth from the inside out, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says. You know it because you've experienced, you live it, and it's your truth. You see, that's what we're really being called to reach, that point, so that we know that we know that we know that we are the light of God, that we are perfect and beautiful just the way we are, and we're waking up to owning it, to claiming it, to living it, to proclaiming it, as Meister Eckhart said, to giving it birth at a whole nother level. The undeniable. This is a true story from a book titled Small Miracles. There was a man who, much of all of his life, really, he just knew at a bone level that the God of his being could provide in ways that maybe were unorthodox, or he didn't need to know how his needs were going to be met. He just knew they would be met. And at this particular time in his life, he was a traveling salesperson, and he drove a lot. Well, one night he's coming home. His name is Tom Stonehill. Tom Stonehill was driving home. It was late one night in sort of a rural area, not a lot of places to stop, and he really needed to find a restroom. So finally he got to an exit. He pulled off the exit, and there was one gas station. He went to the gas station, and wouldn't you know, it was locked, closed, couldn't get in the restroom. So he looks and he sees a light in the distance, and he said, I don't care if it's a house, I'm going to go ask if I can use their restroom. So he got in his car and very quickly headed in that direction, and then the blue light special, and we're not talking Walmart here, you know what? Woo! So he stopped, and the police officer believed what he said. I'm really just trying to find a restroom, I don't speed. He said, well, just calm down. You are headed in a direction. I think if you head up there, they may let you use the restroom. So the police officer actually escorted him to a funeral home. So Tom Stonehill kind of runs in this funeral home, and then he realizes, oh my God, there's a service in process. So he slows down a little bit. He walks in, and he's being respectful. So he signs in, and he said, where's your restroom? So he goes to the restroom, and when he comes out, he just had this feeling, just pay your respects. So he went in and he paid his respects to the individual who had made their transition. Then he went back out and they said, "Sir, could you completely sign in?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I probably just scribbled." So he went back over and he wrote his name and signed in very clearly. Went on his way. 3 weeks later, he received a phone call. And they said, "Are you Tom Stonehill?" "Yes." "Approximately 3 weeks ago, you were in so-and-so funeral home and you signed." "Yes, yes, yes." "Well, we don't want you to be alarmed, but this is actually very, very important. We need for you to come back to this funeral home, and I can promise you, you absolutely want to come." He thought, this is odd, but okay. So he made the trip back over. He went in. And when he walked in, he recognized a man that was there that night when he sat in, and lo and behold, there's the police officer again. So he sits down, and they start telling him, "When you came in that night, you attended the service of an individual that has something, you need to be here for the reading of their will." So he said, "Okay." And the attorney who was also there said, "I have never in my life done a will like this. It was the simplest and most unusual thing I've ever done, but here it goes. Here's the man's will." And this man's name is Mr. Stanley Murrow. "Everyone hated my guts, and no one ever got any money from me when I was alive. So any person who comes to my funeral is obviously someone who had compassion for an old coot like me. I hereby bequeath my entire estate and all its withholdings to be divided equally among those who attend my funeral." They said, "Mr. Tom Stonehill, yours is the only signature in the register." He inherited a multi-million-dollar estate. The undeniable. Cerny. I can imagine that man saying, "I am here to reveal the divine." What I know is that each of you are here to reveal the divine in ways that are uninvited and invited, in ways that are unthinkable and are calling you to consider trespassing your own self-imposed boundaries. And most importantly, in ways that are absolutely undeniable. Because you see, when we know that we are the very likeness and image of our Creator, when I know that you are and you are and you are, and no matter how we show up and act, even when we forget it and we act like jerks, we can still see through the jerk face and call it forth from one another. But the way we reveal the divine is to call it forth from within our own self, again and again and again. So Unity Church of Edgewood, I believe that you are here to reveal the divine, individually and collectively. And I am more passionate and on fire than ever before about the power of what we have to offer. I love that I'm seeing younger people and our elder, which the Hawaiians call kapuna, the sacred ones. I love that I see a variety of people who are coming to discover who they are, and I believe would like to help make a difference in this world.